Okay, hi Marc, we are
Hi,
here.
lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you also again. We are here with Marc Zander, Chief Client Officer from Teads, in this nice boat. The last day of this Cannes Lions was a hard week, I think, for you, and a lot of meetings. No,
it's been a tough week, but a very successful week. People see this, but in reality, I've had 45 meetings in 4 days, and 45 meetings with some of the top clients and senior clients from a marketing perspective and from a media perspective. So for us, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Marc, how is the business going? Tell us something about your business and the business in general you are in.
So the business is going really, really well. I joined Teads 5.5 years ago now to set up what we called our advertiser first strategy. And that was all around how do we make sure that our big clients know who we are, what we do, and how we can really support them. At the time, the business was about just under $200 million.
Not bad.
5 years later, we're just under 700 million, so we're growing very fast. We're growing very fast because we're doing good things that our clients like. But the word that everybody in my business knows that I use all the time is we're just scratching the surface. So we've grown from here to here, but the potential is here. We should be already a $3 to $5 billion business, and we will definitely be there in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a really exciting time to be at Teads.
Very interesting. What do you think the brands need to do to advertise responsibly? It's one of the things we see here in this Cannes Lions these days. Everybody speaks, proposes responsibility. Can you give some tips for the?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's the first question is why is brand advertising responsibly important? I have 3 young daughters, and I think the best example for me is the recent campaign that Unilever and Dove have done on the self-esteem project. And the campaign is all around self-esteem in young girls. And it's a fantastic campaign. It's won 10 Cannes Lions here. And what it says is, the challenges of social media, because when I talk to the person who runs Dove and say, what is the #1 driver of social issues in young girls and esteem issues in young girls? The answer is social media. And then when we say, well, where do you spend the bulk of your digital budget? In social media. So there's a real challenge because social media is really, really dangerous from a societal perspective. There's some good things about it, but in terms of things like hate speech, in terms of things like fake news, in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of Ukraine. I mean, in the Ukraine situation, there's never been a more important time for quality journalism. As a father, you look at that, or as a mother, or as even anybody, you look at that and you cannot say we don't have a responsibility to do anything. So at Teads, we have taken on a 5-step approach to helping in advertising responsibly. So the first one is about supporting quality journalism. As I said, there's never been a more important time for all the things we've talked about. And the challenge is that quality journalism is expensive. And it is funded by one of 2 things. It's either funded by subscriptions, but we live in a world where nobody wants to pay for news. I don't have any, I'm sure you probably don't have either. The only other way is to do it with advertising. So it's really important that brands and media agencies invest in quality in people like Teads who then are providing the money for publishers, because that is what funds the journalism. And if they what is really important is it needs to make sure that the solutions work at least as well as social media, because the challenge for the brands is if they've got something that's working really well on YouTube and Facebook, if it didn't work somewhere else, it becomes a problem. We at Teads know we can make it work at least as well, if not better. So there's no excuse for people, not only because it's right for business, or it's right for society, but even equally as important, it's right for business. The second thing is respecting the brands and the users. So from a brand perspective, it is really important from a responsible advertising perspective that the solutions are brand safe. Brands need to have the confidence that they're not going to appear in dodgy, in bad content, in fake news, etc., etc. Again, in quality, the beauty of quality publishing is you do not get ISIS-funded content in the middle of Elle and Vogue. It's physically impossible. You do not get hate speech in the middle of those. And at Teads, so it starts with quality publishing, but then we have 5 different layers of brand safety to make sure that people can be really comfortable that when they're advertising with Teads, it is the best brand safe solution. So you talk about quality publishers, the second is brand safety, the third is about diversity and inclusion.
Also.
And that is, you know, super important. All of these are actually society issues rather than advertising issues. But if we look at some of the things that are happening and how we're supporting, I'll just give you an example. So we work with a drinks brand, and from a creative perspective, they have images of boy kissing boy, girl kissing girl, gender fluidity, and are really pushing very positively the diverse and inclusive agenda. When you look then at a media perspective, they have, and their block list, so the words they're blocking out LGBT, they're blocking out gay, lesbian, etc. So that has three problems. The first is that they're not targeting the people where their creative would massively resonate. As a result, they're reducing their reach, and they're increasing their cost. They don't do it intentionally, but because they don't focus on the two, what they're trying to do from a purpose perspective, on the left hand, the right hand is doing something completely different. So we can help them, and my advice to everyone here is to make sure you're continuously checking your block list to make sure that it is A, up to date, and B, it is consistent with the policies and the causes that you're supporting as a brand. Does that make sense?
So you can guarantee this?
Yes, absolutely.
You can guarantee the brand safety and these things you are saying for the advertisers?
Absolutely.
So very important.
So that's the third element, diversity and inclusion. The fourth element is around sustainability. And sustainability is really important. I mean, our planet needs all the help it can get. Now, it's not what Teads does in isolation that will change the world. We're far too small. But everybody has a responsibility to do their little bit. And if you add all the little bits together, it becomes a much bigger and much more powerful thing. So at Teads, what we've done, the first thing is around, already we are a very sustainable product because of the quality of our AI and the tech that sits behind our platform. What that means is, instead of sending an ad to 5 people, our technology works so well that we only send it to 1, which means it has a fifth of the carbon footprint that it would do if you were just spraying out there. So really making sure that all the people that are listening to this are working with partners, not just us, that have really strong tech to make sure that they're not just spraying and praying is really important. That's the first thing. The second thing is about understanding our clients' carbon footprint. So we're working with a lot of our partners, our JBP partners, which are our strategic partners, and we have those in all of the big verticals to make sure that they can actually understand what their carbon footprint. That's the first thing, so measurement. The second is working with them to say, how do we reduce it? And there are all kinds of things. It can be about what device it's being sent to, really strange, silly little things like the time of day. If you're sending it at 9 o'clock in the evening, it's less than at 6 o'clock and at 12. So, and then the third is, how do we take to the next level and start to reduce it? So again, you know, we're very realistic. We're not big enough to change the world, but we believe we have to do our little bit in that. And then the final bit is what we call giving back to communities, so our Teads Care program. And what we're doing there is we're saying, when we work with our partners and our advertisers, if they are advertising, I'm just make up, if they spend 100 with us, and they commit to spending 5 more to support their charity, their cause, we will match it. So on every campaign they run, we will both commit to putting incremental investment in to help raise the profile of worthy causes and charities. So that's our contribution.
What's about the attention priority? Tell us something, because you have launched some interesting program here in Cannes Lions. Tell us something about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please,
I mean, attention is critical. So as you know, my background was a marketeer. And as a marketeer, you make great content because you want people to watch it, and you want them to be attentive when they're watching. So the world is moving away from a very blunt measurement tool called viewability, because if it says technically I viewed it, it can be on screen and running, but I can be going to grab something, I can be on my phone, I can be doing something else at the same time. The whole purpose of attention is to make sure that you can measure and you start to pay for knowing that people are actually attentive to your ad rather than not attentive. And there are 4 key drivers. So we worked with Dentsu, and they did a big study called the attention economy. And there are 4 key drivers of attention. And none of these are rocket science. They're pretty obvious. But actually, the first one is the viewable time. So the time that people have actively been viewing that content. And that is measured through eye tracking. So if you imagine, if I just say, is the ad playing? I can be doing all kinds of things. The eye tracking that says, how much time of that 15 seconds or that 10 seconds am I physically in view? Not and attentive. I'm not looking here, I'm not looking over there, I'm looking there. Now why that's important, obviously, is because the more attentive you are, the more you're looking at it, the more you're going to understand it. It's not very difficult. The second driver is forced versus non-forced. So again, think about your own behavior. If I'm forced to watch something before I'm watching, let's say something on YouTube, I'm actually spending a lot of time looking at the skip button, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not very attentive. We've all behaved like that. However, if you're reading something and you're reading slowly, and you're not forced to read it, but you're very attentive on the advertising, it doubles the impact in terms of the effectiveness of the advertising in a non-forced versus a forced view. The third element is context. If you put a football ad in the middle of football, if you put a music ad in the middle of music content, it has a bigger impact on attention. If I'm reading an article on music and I see an ad for a finance thing, that's breaking up where it doesn't fit with the context. And the fourth bit is around creativity. The more creative and impactful it is, the more it will drive attention. And as you know, we have a very good in-house studio that we don't make content, but we take our clients' content and make it really zing on our platform.
You do it by yourself?
We do it.
But when the clients bring it to you?
So the way that we do it best with our clients is through what we call a Teads atelier. And what happens there is we give them the content, they give us the content and the brief a week before.
You adapt it or what?
The first thing we do is we take that content and we make it work really hard on our platform. And so we come back a week later to our client with best examples already ready to go.
That's good.
We then sit down with them for 2 hours. So the idea is to make it very easy for them for 2 hours, and they look at it and they say, oh, I like that, can you make it bigger, can you make it spin, etc. And my favorite example is we were doing some work with Nespresso. And I know, we have one of these formats that's a cube that you can flick around, looks like a cube, and it was for their iced coffee, and they said, could you turn that into an ice cube? And it's like, yeah, of course we can. So quickly our design team did that. So coming back to the atelier, through that co-creation process with our partners, at the end of the session they have probably 10 assets that are ready to go there, of which 7 are probably ready to sign off and 3 need a little bit more work. We then spend the next day on our side doing the changes to the 3, and that evening we have another meeting with them where they approve the final 3 and go from start, where they have good assets but not fit for the Teads platform, to literally 2 hours later and 2 days later they have finished assets everyone's approved, and we see normally that there is a 20 to 30% improvement in impact as a result of that. So if we go back to the 4 drivers of attention, the quality of the in-view time, we're really strong on that. Non-forced, we're really strong on that. Context, we're really strong on that. And then the final one being creativity, we're really strong on that during the optimization. And therefore Teads is performing really, really well on attention. And there is proven analysis done not by us but by third parties like Lumen, like Amplified Intelligence, which says that actually there's a significant increase in both effectiveness and sales when there is more intention. And it's very obvious. If you show me an ad and I'm looking like that, the impact on sales is going to be 0. If you show me an ad and I'm super engaged, and the messaging is good and the targeting is good, of course it's going to have more effect. So it means that without our clients spending any more money, they're actually able to get much better results for the same amount of budget, which is great.
It sounds very logic what you're saying, but we don't see it in sometimes when we travel around the internet. No, sounds logic, but some people don't get it.
Absolutely.
We have to say this.
And that's a really important point, because the reason that people advertise is to drive growth.
Yes.
If it doesn't drive growth, what do? It's what is it? It's a cost. If it's a cost, what do? They cut it.
Yes.
So the job of everyone is to make advertising drive growth, and the race to just buy cheap CPMs on very poor inventory that has very low attention looks great on a media plan, but has very little impact in terms of growth.
My last question is about the data privacy. It's one of the items the industry also is always speaking in looking about this and respecting the consumer experience. Can you say us some words about this?
I always talk about not data in isolation, but smart use of data. It's really important to think about what am I using data for, and then how do I do it. So we have been working, as you know, for the last 4 years because to make sure that we can get to a place which we have now, that we are ready to provide data solutions in a cookieless world. So everyone talks about, the cookieless future is near. Well, it's actually here today. If you have an iPhone, nobody with an iPhone, and you've got one there, can be targeted. So in a market like the US, up to 50% of your audiences you cannot reach today. So it's not about the cookieless world for tomorrow, it's actually the cookieless world that's here now.
At this moment.
Now, because we operate from a contextual perspective, so we're able to look at, what are people interested in, what they're reading, we have built our AI to make sure that we can target as well in a cookieless world as a cookie world. The important thing is that our brands and our advertisers need to trust us. So we have been running with every one of our big clients a series of tests, cookieless versus cookie. And what we found is across those 150 tests that we perform at least as well on the media KPIs. So the question that says, can we survive in a cookieless world? You can today, because we're doing that today. Even more interestingly, not only do we provide the solution today from a media KPI perspective, probably more encouragingly, we're seeing a significant improvement in brand KPIs in a cookieless world versus cookie world. And people go, well, why might that be? And I think there are two key reasons. The first is, if you think about cookies, they are backward looking. So they're 30, 60, 90 days looking backwards. And 3 months may actually make that person less relevant than they were there. If you're talking about contextual, about what they're looking at context in real time, and today, not 3 or 4 months back. The second thing is, again, in a cookieless world, we're able to target Apple and iPhone users who tend to be higher expenditure, and those two reasons means that when you're doing cookieless solutions with Teads, you can do it now and you can get better results, which is great because everyone's going, we need a solution. We have the solution today, which is really exciting.
Interesting, very interesting. Thank you very much for this long interview and this explanation. So give us a lot of good tips, I think a lot of good ideas, people to listen. So thank you very much, and for your energy. This is last day here, and that you are so much with this power. So thank you very much, Marc.
I'm a father of 4 children. This is easy.
This is very easy. The other
Thank you very much.
Thank you.